Every person you've ever loved has been an echo of your mother. Not consciously, not obviously, but Carl Jung discovered that the first relationship shapes every relationship that follows. And for empaths, that first relationship left a wound, a pattern, an unconscious blueprint that keeps choosing the same unavailable person in different bodies. Today, I'm going to show you how your mother's emotional unavailability created the relationship pattern you keep repeating, and why healing it transforms every connection instantly. If you're an empath who keeps choosing partners who can't fully meet you, this will explain why. Let me tell you something about empaths that most people don't understand. You don't have bad luck in love. You have a pattern. And that pattern was written before you could speak, before you had conscious memory. In the first relationship you ever had, with your mother, Jung discovered that the mother-child relationship creates what he called the mother complex, a psychological blueprint that shapes how you experience love, safety, and connection for the rest of your life. And for empaths, that blueprint is often built around one core experience: emotional unavailability. A mother who was physically present but emotionally absent, who needed you to manage her feelings instead of her managing yours, who taught you that love means giving endlessly without receiving. Today, I'm going to explain how this wound shapes your adult relationships, why you keep choosing emotionally unavailable partners, and what Jung understood about healing this pattern so your relationships can finally transform. Because once you see this, you can't unsee it. And seeing it is the first step toward breaking free. Let's begin. Part 1. The mother wound in empaths. Here's what Jung understood about empaths and the mother wound. Empaths aren't just born sensitive. They're created through a specific type of early relationship, one where emotional attunement went in only one direction. Think about what makes someone empathic. It's not just feeling deeply. It's the ability to read subtle emotional cues, to sense what others need before they ask, to manage the emotional temperature of a room. These aren't random gifts. They're survival skills, developed in childhood when your emotional safety depended on accurately reading your mother's emotional state. If your mother was anxious, you learned to soothe her. If she was depressed, you learned to bring lightness. If she was angry, you learned to disappear. Your attunement wasn't reciprocal. You tuned into her. She didn't tune into you. Jung would say you learned to carry your mother's unprocessed emotions. You became what he called the container for her shadow. All the feelings she couldn't hold, you held for her. And in doing this, you developed extraordinary emotional intelligence, but at a cost. You learned that love means one-sided caretaking, that your needs don't matter as much as others, that being seen requires being useful. This is the mother wound in empaths. Not abuse, not neglect in the obvious sense, but a reversal of the natural flow, where the child becomes the emotional parent to their own mother. One woman Jung worked with described it perfectly. She said, "I was my mother's therapist before I was 10. I knew her moods better than she did. I could sense her anxiety before she felt it, and I learned to manage it so she wouldn't collapse. But who managed me? No one. I learned to manage myself, to not need to be the strong one." This pattern becomes identity. The empath doesn't just help others. They need to help others, because that's how they learn to earn love. Through service, through attunement, through making themselves indispensable by managing what others can't. And this is where the pattern begins. The pattern that will shape every romantic relationship that follows. Part 2, the repetition compulsion. Here's where it gets painful. Jung discovered that we don't just remember our childhood wounds, we repeat them. He called this the repetition compulsion. the unconscious drive to recreate the original wound in hopes of finally healing it. For empaths with mother wounds, this means unconsciously choosing partners who replicate the emotional unavailability of the mother, not because you're masochistic, but because your psyche is trying to master what it couldn't control in childhood. Think about the partners you've chosen. The emotionally distant one, the one who needed constant caretaking, the one who was present physically but absent emotionally, the one whose moods you learned to manage, the one who took your attunement but never reciprocated. Sound familiar? That's not coincidence. That's your mother complex activating. Your unconscious is drawn to what feels familiar, and familiar feels like love, even when it's actually wounding. Here's how the pattern works. You meet someone who triggers the old wound. They're charismatic but unavailable, charming but inconsistent. They need you but can't fully see you. And something in you lights up, not in a healthy way, in a familiar way. Your entire childhood training activates. You know how to do this. You know how to attune, to manage, to give endlessly while asking for nothing. You think you're falling in love, but you're actually falling into pattern, recreating the dynamic where you earn love through emotional labor, where you prove your worth by being endlessly available to someone who remains unavailable to you. Jung worked with a man, a deeply empathic person, who'd been in 5 relationships, all with emotionally unavailable women. Each time, he'd pour himself into the relationship, anticipate their needs, manage their moods, give everything. And each time he'd end up depleted, unseen, alone even when partnered. When Jung asked why he kept choosing this type, the man was confused. He didn't think he was choosing. It just kept happening to him. But Jung showed him the pattern. Every woman matched his mother, emotionally needy but unable to give back, requiring constant attunement but never attuning to him. And each relationship was his unconscious attempt to finally get his mother to see him. The wound wasn't in the relationships. The wound was directing the relationships. His mother complex was choosing partners who would recreate the original dynamic, hoping that this time, if he just gave enough, he'd finally be seen. But it never worked. Because the wound can't be healed through repetition. It can only be healed through consciousness. Here's where Jung's understanding gets deeper. When you choose emotionally unavailable partners, you're not just repeating a pattern, you're projecting the mother archetype onto them. Projection, in Jung's terms, means you're seeing your own unconscious content in another person. You're not seeing them as they are. You're seeing them through the lens of your unresolved mother complex. For empaths, this means you project your need for the unavailable mother onto your partner. You unconsciously cast them in that role, and then you try to get from them what you never got from her: emotional availability, reciprocal attunement, the feeling of being seen and held. But here's the problem. They can't give it. Not because they're bad people, but because they're not actually your mother. They're just carrying your projection of her. And more, you chose them specifically because they match the unavailable mother archetype. So asking them to suddenly become available is asking them to be someone they're not. This is the bind empaths get trapped in. You choose unavailable people hoping they'll finally give you what the unavailable mother couldn't. But they can't because they're unavailable. That's why you chose them. The pattern is self-perpetuating, and it will continue until you withdraw the projection, until you stop looking for your mother in your partners, until you finally grieve that what you needed in childhood can never be given by an adult relationship. Jung told the man, "You're not in relationship with these women. You're in relationship with your image of the mother. You're trying to heal a childhood wound through adult love. But it doesn't work that way. The wound must be faced directly in yourself. not projected onto another. This is the work empaths must do. Stop seeking in others what can only be found within. If this is resonating, subscribe. This journey continues. Here's what happens when empaths don't heal the mother wound. The pattern intensifies. Each failed relationship deepens the wound, and eventually something breaks. Jung saw this repeatedly. Empaths who burned out, who became bitter, who closed their hearts entirely, not because they stopped caring, but because they'd given so much to unavailable people that nothing was left. The cost shows up in specific ways. Chronic exhaustion, not physical tiredness, it's all tiredness. The depletion of someone who's been giving from an empty well for decades. Resentment toward the partners who took without giving, but deeper toward yourself, for choosing them, for staying too long, for betraying your own needs repeatedly. Loss of self. You've attuned to so many people that you don't know your own frequency anymore. You've managed so many emotions that you've lost touch with your own. You've become the mirror everyone looks into, but no one sees. And finally, the belief that real love isn't possible for you, that you're too much, too sensitive, too damaged, that the love you long for, reciprocal, nourishing, safe, doesn't exist. But Jung would say that belief is the final lie of the wound, the deepest distortion, because the truth is, you've just been looking in the wrong place. You've been seeking outside what can only be found inside. The mother you needed, the one who sees you, holds you, mirrors you back to yourself. She's not in a partner. She's in the work of becoming your own inner mother. Here's how healing actually happens. Not through finding a better partner, but through becoming a different person. Someone who no longer needs emotionally unavailable people because they've learned to be available to themselves. Jung called this process individuation, differentiating from the mother complex, withdrawing projections, integrating what was split off, and in doing this, transforming the entire relationship pattern. The first step is recognition, seeing the pattern clearly, not judging it, not shaming yourself for it. Just seeing, I've been choosing unavailable people because that's what feels like love. The second step is grief. This is the hardest part. You must grieve that your mother couldn't give you what you needed. That no partner will ever fill that hole. That the childhood you longed for is gone. And no amount of adult love can retroactively heal it. This grief feels like death, because it is. The death of the hope that someone will finally see you the way you needed to be seen as a child. The death of the fantasy that the right partner will heal. The wound. The death of the pattern that's organized your entire emotional life. But Jung understood that this death is necessary. Only when you stop seeking the mother outside can you become the mother inside. Only when you accept that no one will save you can you learn to hold yourself. The third step is reparenting. You must learn to give yourself what you never received. Emotional availability. Attunement to your own needs. The feeling of being seen and valued. Not through affirmation, through action. Through choosing yourself even when it's uncomfortable. This means setting boundaries. Saying no. Leaving relationships that deplete you. Choosing solitude over connection that costs too much. Learning to meet your own emotional needs instead of outsourcing them to others who can't fulfill them. Jung worked with a woman who'd spent 40 years in various versions of the same relationship, always with unavailable men, always giving endlessly, always ending up alone. Through therapy, she finally saw the pattern, grieved the mother who never saw her, and began the work of becoming her own inner mother. It wasn't dramatic. It was daily. Small choices to honor her needs, to stop managing others' emotions, to be unavailable to unavailable people. And then something shifted, not because she changed her type, but because she stopped being attracted to that type. The unavailable men no longer triggered her. They just seemed uninteresting, because she was no longer looking for her mother in them. She'd found the mother in herself, and that changed everything. Here's what Jung discovered. When an empath heals the mother wound, relationships don't just improve, they completely transform. Because you're no longer operating from the same blueprint. The old pattern was, choose unavailable person. Try to earn their love through service. Deplete yourself. Wonder why it's never enough. Repeat. The new pattern is, recognize unavailability immediately. Feel no pull toward it. Choose differently. Or choose solitude until someone available appears. But it's deeper than that. When you've healed the mother wound, you stop seeking completion through others. You're no longer trying to fill the void the mother left. So you enter relationships from fullness, not emptiness. You don't need them to see you. You already see yourself. You don't need them to hold you. You already hold yourself. You don't need them to save you. You've saved yourself. And from that place, real love becomes possible. Not the desperate love of the wounded child, but the mature love of two whole people who choose each other, not because they need each other, but because they want to share their wholeness. Jung called this the sacred marriage, not between two people, but between the inner masculine and feminine, the integration of opposites within. And when that marriage happens internally, external relationships naturally align with it. The empath who heals no longer attracts unavailable people. Or if they do, they recognize it immediately and walk away. They're no longer willing to betray themselves for connection. They've learned that the cost of the wrong relationship is higher than the discomfort of being alone. And then, often when they've stopped seeking, someone appears who matches their new frequency. Someone who's available, who can give and receive, who sees them without needing to be taught how. That's when relationships transform instantly. Not because the other person is perfect, but because you're finally whole. And wholeness attracts wholeness. So here's where we are. If you're an empath who keeps choosing emotionally unavailable partners, it's not random. It's the mother wound, a pattern written in childhood, repeated in adulthood, seeking resolution through repetition. But repetition won't heal it. Only consciousness will. Only the willingness to see the pattern, grieve the original loss, and become your own inner mother. This work isn't easy. It requires facing the pain you've been running from your entire life. The pain of not being seen by the person who was supposed to see you first. The pain of realizing no one can give you that now. The pain of learning to give it to yourself. But Jung would tell you this pain is the passage. Through it lies freedom. The freedom to choose differently, to love without losing yourself, to connect without depleting, to finally have relationships that nourish instead of drain. The mother wound isn't permanent. It's a pattern. And patterns can be rewritten, not by finding a better partner, but by becoming a different version of yourself, one who no longer needs what unavailable people offer, because you've learned to be available to yourself. If you're ready to explore how Jung's psychology can help you break free from these patterns, subscribe to this channel. This work doesn't end here. And remember, the love you're seeking isn't out there. It's in the work of becoming whole. When you heal the mother wound, you don't just change your relationships, you change your entire life. Because you finally become the person you needed all along. And from that place, everything transforms.